You do all the Gmail stuff. I do all the YouTube stuff. Mark, I gotta ask, man.
I look pretty.
Mark does all the Asian stuff.
I'm an ideas man. I don't do the work. Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark, or your wife? Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. But sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
All right, guys. So I wanted to bring this up, and I gave you guys a little bit of notice on this one, which we usually don't do, by the way.
That is
This is
true.
the second behind the curtain look of the episode. Well,
This one's not organic.
this might be a second episode, maybe. Anyways, doesn't matter. So usually we just wing everything. Like half the time we don't even know if anybody has anything to talk about when we start these meetings. But so this time I sort of gave you guys a heads up because it's kind of a weird one. But so we have where I work, we have janitors that are there. I believe 16 hours a day. There's at least, I think there's 2 people per 8-hour shift. And I think they go 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. So there's 4 janitors or custodians, whatever you want to call them, total. And there's not that many bathrooms or offices in our whole facility. So generally speaking, they might clean the same bathroom like 4 times in an 8-hour shift. They just, do laps. They literally just do circles, around to all these places cleaning. And so I had this weird thing that I realized today. As I was walking across, literally I was going into a bathroom as he was leaving, and the floor was freshly mopped. And I'm walking across it, leaving these footprints. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad that I just left these footprints all across this guy's floor. He's going to be back in 2 hours and do it over again. And if I didn't do it, someone was going to come in 3.5 minutes later and do exactly the same thing. I'm like, I probably shouldn't have felt bad about that. But I did, because this guy just did some work, and I come in and ruined it like immediately.
It reminds me of the Simpsons episode. I don't know if you guys have seen the one. It's one of the older ones when, for whatever reason, Burns makes Smithers go clean, turns him into a janitor for a while, and he's cleaning the bathroom, and he's like scrubbing one of the urinals with his toothbrush, and all of a sudden he gets done, he's like, spotless, and Homer comes running in, and he's like, out of the way, and he pushes him out of the way, and he unzips at that urinal, and Smithers is like, no. But I mean, you clean it because it gets dirty because it's used.
Right.
But
I get it.
I get what you're saying. You don't want to walk on a freshly cleaned floor, but it's cleaned because it gets used enough that it gets dirty on a regular basis.
I know.
With the wet floor, though, if you give it like a couple minutes to dry, then when you walk on it, it looks cleaner for a longer amount of time.
However, I know in my head that this is 10 a.m. in the morning. This guy is going to clean the same bathroom at least 2 more times before 3 o'clock. At least, maybe even 3 more. I don't know. I don't know what is.
Does your bathroom really need to be cleaned that often?
I'm sorry?
Does your bathroom really need to be cleaned that often?
No, but we just have them around. And like I said, it's not that big of a facility. So they literally just do laps.
See, I will tell you, I got into an argument with one of our environmental services staff at the hospital once. Because I used to work the night shift and only worked the night shift when I was in the emergency department. And that's when they would, of course, do their major cleanings in a lot of the areas of the hospital because, that's when there's less traffic there. And they were doing this huge thing where they were trying to, strip down the floors, wash, and then re-wax the main hallway in the hospital. And one guy had gotten what they were supposed to do is they're supposed to clean this area of it, like a big area, but leave enough room for stretchers and stuff to fit down one side of it. It's one side of the hallway. And then come back and do that. But you can tell when they do that because there's like a line of difference just from a day or two of cleaning. You can tell there's a line of difference with the way that they wash and wax it all. He decided to try to do, it was a quiet night, and he was trying to do the entire hallway all at once, just washing, not waxing. And it literally was probably 2 minutes away from being finished. He had the fans out there drying it, like trying to finish it all off and dry it. And I came down with this patient who was critical and needed to go to CT scan. And he was between me and the CT scanner. And he was begging me in the hallway to not go on the floor for 2 more minutes. So that, because in his mind, he's like, what can't wait 2 minutes for somebody to walk down this hallway? And in my mind, I was like, this has to get done now. Whether it really like needed to get done that second or it could wait 2 minutes or not, you're in emergency department mode. Like, you have to get things done now. And he begged me to not go on this floor and asked me, because there was another way to get to the CT scanner, but it involved me literally backtracking through the entire emergency department to go around, because he was cleaning in front of the door of the CT scanner, from the door down to the hallway that I came down, whereas I could go the other way completely around the hospital, and I refused, and we had this big argument in the middle of the hallway.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad after the fact, because by the time we got done arguing,
it was dry.
It was dry. And it showed at the end of the day that waiting that 2 minutes didn't matter, because the patient was fine. Like, nothing was wrong with them. But I didn't know at the time. Like, nobody knew at the time. And I was just trying to do what was best. And I thought about that for weeks, because I was like, man, I could have just waited 2 minutes. That's not a big deal. It could have been 2 more minutes before the doctor put in the order for the CT scan. It wasn't, those things happen all the time. But then I was like, what is the audacity of this guy to actually yell at me about, like, taking a patient to get patient care in the middle of the hospital from the emergency department?
Isn't it his fault for not doing his job correctly?
Yeah, yes, completely agreed. He was trying to be proficient and efficient, but at the sake of patient safety.
Well, let me play dime store psychologist here.
No.
If you stopped to argue with the guy for 2 minutes until the floor was dry, you must have known in your heart of hearts that the CT scan was not that.
Well, I couldn't get through. So in my defense,
ran him over.
I could have ran him over. Which,
how did he block the whole hallway?
How many what?
How did he block the whole hallway?
It was blocked with cones, and then he was just standing in the middle of it.
Oh, well, you could have ran
cones and his fan. His equipment was in the middle of the hallway, drying the floor.
Oh.
Well, I mean, technically, you could have reported him for blocking the hallway for in a manner that he's not supposed to begin with.
Oh, yeah,
so I mean,
it could have.
Probably fire hazard.
His fault, and I mean, we all been done stuff like that. Like, oh, I want to do a shortcut. I want to do it all at once. Da 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 da. You can't get pissed off at someone because your grand scheme or whatever of cheating the system didn't work out. It's your freaking fault for trying to cheat the system.
Agreed. You've seen the movie Waiting, right? I'm gonna make a lot of apparently movie and like cartoon references in this. You see the movie Waiting?
Yeah.
You remember them at the end when they're sitting there, they've cleaned the entire kitchen, they're just using the rag on the table while they're watching the clock because it's 2 minutes until closing time, and they're like, come on. And then that one couple walks in the door because they want that last minute dinner, and you have to serve them because they got there before it closed, and everybody's like, oh, and they start throwing the food around because now like all their clean work is gone. How many times have we done that in the restaurant industry? And McDonald's trying to close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't think that we actually had that issue at McDonald's.
Oh.
I mean, we always try to. Well, okay.
Mike and I did. You didn't close as often. Mike and I closed a lot.
But,
yeah, we did.
But I mean, a lot of times when you're doing a situation like that at McDonald's, because this is McDonald's, most of the stuff is like,
it's not life-threatening. No.
You want a hamburger? Okay, these patties that I made an hour ago.
You're lucky if they were made an hour ago.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think. I mean, it's sort of annoying, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I know with like restaurants, it's a lot harder because you do wash pots and pans and all that stuff. But I do think it's sort of a dick move for people who do that because they know that closing hours is supposed to be when you close the doors and everyone goes home, not like the last time we'll accept people coming in.
Well, I don't know. If you're going to tell me, if you're a restaurant and you're going to tell me that you're open till 11, do I have to, in my mind, plan, well, it's going to take probably about
I need
45
to be there by
minutes.
10:30.
Yeah,
right.
45 minutes in and out of there, so I better get there by 10:15 or else they're not going to let me in the door. No. My thought process is they close at 11. As long as I get there by 11, I can have the experience that I want to have.
Unfortunately, like when you're talking about a McDonald's or something like that, I think a lot of times because it's high school people and it's their first like serious job or something like that, like that's what they expect you to do.
Oh my God, I don't even know if I told you guys this story ever. I went to a wedding. Mike, I went to your wedding. Like this, ironically, I went to your wedding. It was
We didn't close at 11 in my wedding. I know that.
No. It was way later than that we left. I was living in Farmington Hills at the time, and I had come up to Grand Blanc, so it was like hour drive for me to get back home. So my date and we left. We went and stopped up on. We had to go somewhere up on Miller Road first because her family was from around there. So we went and stopped and did something like with her family. I can't remember what. I mean, late in the night. So like 2:00 in the morning. We had to drive back to Farmington Hills, and I was like, okay, I want to get something to drink, not alcohol, like something like a Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, like something to drink because I'm thirsty to go home with. So we went to Checkers up on, I think it was up on Miller Road, Rallies? One of the two.
Yeah.
Pulled up to it, pulled up to the drive-through sign where you order, lights on and everything. We're looking at the menu, and I'm looking at my watch, and I'm like, okay, they close in 2 minutes. Like, and all I'm getting is a drink, so they're not going to be mad. They're probably pissed off that somebody showed up, but whatever. They, we're just here for something to drink. They're not going to be that upset. So I sat here at the thing. I'm looking. Nobody says anything on the speaker box. Nobody says anything on the speaker box. Nobody says anything on the speaker box. And I'm like, hello, you guys close in 2 minutes. Like, we're here. Wait about 30 seconds. I shit you not. The lights turned off, and somebody came across and says, we're closed. And I said, no. You don't close for another minute, or I've been here for like the last 5 minutes or whatever it's been. I'm like, don't worry. I don't want food. I just want something to drink real quick. I told you we're closed. And I was like, no, it's not a big deal. I just wanted, and I was arguing with them because I worked at fast food like for so many years. I know how it works. I argue. They did. Don't worry. Just put the diffusers back in the fountain machine and give me a Diet Coke. That's all I want. I told you we're closed, and they never answered the speaker again. And I was so angry. I pulled into a drive-thru and was at the speaker. How many times at McDonald's did we close? But there was a line of cars, and we said we would serve the rest of the line of cars that was in line until we would close down. Because as long as they were in the parking lot and in line, we served them. Right. That was what we were told we had to do. So we did.
That's what you were told by your manager or whatever. Depends on the individual company. Because, like, right. If you, like, and same thing with restaurants.
Well, Mike, you were my manager.
Customers coming in at the last 2 minutes. Because then all the workers have a half an hour or an hour longer cleaning period. So you have to pay them for that.
Well, I know when I was closing at McDonald's, we were super good about getting every bit of cleaning done ahead of time we could.
Right.
We turned that thing around really quick. Once the doors were locked and everything was said and done, we could knock that out really fast. In fact, like I remember times people saying, I was told by my boss at one point, you guys are closing too quick on your watch. So you're not cleaning well enough. When in actuality, I was doing everything I was supposed to do. It was just getting done way before closing time. so that when we actually closed, like it was a quick process.
Right.
And then we just started, because we had to be there, we started really just kind of screwing around for several minutes.
Until the day that random guy told, I don't know if he told you or told somebody else, and he just said, by the way, you have 6 buses showing up at 11:45, and slowly vanished into like the abyss. Do you remember that day?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
That was the most ridiculous thing in the world. I remember because didn't you pay Jerry $20 out of pocket to come in because we didn't know if these people were actually showing up?
I don't remember if I did or not. It's possible. I always felt bad for Jerry's situation, so I could have very well done that.
But good thing you did, because they sure as hell did show up, and it wasn't at 11:45. It was at like 12:15, like 15 minutes after we closed. But we took them anyway.
I had a couple weird, well, not weird, but situations like that where it was just like these enormous rushes in fast food. I had another one. Actually, kind of a weird coincidence that we're talking about this now, because I just sort of recently connected with the person that I linked to this memory.
Is it Thad?
No, Alina.
Okay.
One night we were working. I think I was closing that night too. But there was like a tornado in Holly, and the American Red Cross came up, and it was late. I don't remember the exact time because this was, at this point it was, 20 years ago? Not quite 20 years ago, 18 anyhow. And I remember the order to this day. It was 100 Cokes, 100 small fries, 100 hamburgers, and 100 Big Macs.
That's quite an order.
Why would they go 100 hamburgers and 100 Big Macs?
Well, apparently this tornado touched down in Holly, which is just south of where we were at. Mm-hmm. And I guess it did a pretty substantial amount of damage to like a trailer park. So they were trying to shelter and feed all these people.
All right, I get it.
Oh. But yeah, I remember that, knocking that order out in a fairly short order, too close to closing time, and it was a lot of work. But
this has nothing to do with closing, but I remember like I was working at McDonald's, and there was a really big storm or something was going on, and everybody thought maybe a tornado was going to happen, and we're all like, I mean, it was so bad that like everyone, like customers and workers, sort of stopped what they were doing, and we're all looking outside. The windows are like sort of shaking, and you can hear like thunder in the background, and all of a sudden it starts hailing really hard against the window. And I remember a manager coming out and just yelling at the customers, back away from the windows, because they were afraid that the windows were going to bust from the hail. And we're like, wow, this is getting really bad. It's like, oh, I think a tornado's coming. And they're like, we're all discussing like, well, if a tornado does come, what are we going to do? And I remember the manager says, like, if a tornado comes, we're going to have everyone go into the freezer locker.
I knew that.
And I was like, everyone? Is like, yeah, the customers, everyone's going to go into the freezer locker because that'll be the safest place for all of us. I was thinking, this is insane.
It's true, though. That would be the safest place for everybody, because there's no basement in that place.
No. I guess.
I do. Speaking of tornadoes, right. This might have been the same day. Who knows? You might have been at McDonald's. I don't know if you weren't there anymore. But there was a tornado warning when we were at bingo. I don't know if you remember that, Mike. We were working at the bingo hall, and the tornado warning went out. And I remember our old boss, Kurt. Kurt
with a T.
Yeah. He was up on the mic, and he goes, "We just got word that there's a tornado warning. If we'd like to stop playing, we can hold until the tornado warning is clear. Or if people would like to continue, you can move away from the back windows, move to wherever you're comfortable, and we'll continue on." And one lady got up from the very back row by a window and moved one row up and sat back down. And we freaking bingo just went on. Like it was like nothing ever happened. Brian and I got in trouble because we went outside and we were in the parking lot because we were looking for a tornado because we really wanted to see a tornado. And we came back in and there was like, poor Brent was answering like 15 bingos that happened at one time because we were outside.
I don't remember if I was there that night. I do remember hearing about it.
Oh
for
my
sure.
god, it was I couldn't I was just like, are you serious? Like he's just announcing that we have to stop bingo because there's a tornado warning and one lady moves from the window and they're like, game on, buddy. Like don't be
Kurt-
stopping
you
this
were
for
a
no
tornado
tornado.
watcher, like in college. I remember like whenever there was really the right conditions for a tornado, you would hop in your Jeep and like drive around looking for a tornado to touch down somewhere.
I remember you got evacuated because I was out with Greg and all them. We were in one of our cars driving around aimlessly looking for this tornado, and it looked like the sky was like so nasty. Like we thought it was happening. The sky, it was like circling like above us, and we were just waiting for it to come down. And you got stuck in the dorm, and they evacuated you to the tunnel because there was a
Right.
tunnel that went under the street, and somehow we were driving by the campus again after one of our loops, and you had for some odd reason said, screw this, I don't want to be in this tunnel anymore, and you just left and happened to go on the street as we drove by, so we stopped and picked you up.
Actually, that's funny you brought that up. Do you remember like the snow emergency, whatever
Oh, yeah.
whatever year that was?
I remember that at Kettering.
When they shut down all the cars on the road.
Yeah, you talked about Jeff in his Jeep driving
Yeah.
around in snow emergency. Do you remember that, Jeff? You
Oh, yeah.
came over to my house. Like you weren't even supposed to be on the
Oh
road.
yeah, it was.
I couldn't go to work because I was like snowed in.
You
just
couldn't go to
drove.
work, and I drove my Jeep over to your house. We like had a good old time. Drank some
Yeah.
beer.
And we
Played-
were throwing
played some
people
video
out of
games.
ditches every once in a while.
Yeah.
And what I recall the best is I don't know how this car got to the entrance to his subdivision, but there was a car that got to like the entrance to his subdivision, and this guy's like, we come up to him with in your Jeep, and we're like, oh, do you need a push? He's like, yeah, my house is just right up the road. If you guys don't mind, we can like push the car. And we're like, yeah, we'll be happy to help. And we're all pushing the car, and he's revving his engine, trying to get some traction, and we're pushing and pushing and pushing. And then his engine like exploded or something like that, because basically it like just wrecked the engine. Like he overheated it and it just melted the engine block or something.
And we were like,
"Oh,
see ya.
we're like, no, we were like, felt really, really bad. And we're like, well, the least we could do is drive you to your house. So he climbed into your Jeep, and it was seriously like almost the back end of this neighborhood. And we're like, what the hell is this guy thinking? There's no way we would have been able to push all the way up there.
I do recall that as well. God, I miss that Jeep so much, man. I had so much fun in that Jeep. You can still find that video. It's still on your YouTube or your MySpace channel.
Mine.
Yep. It's on your MySpace channel. I downloaded it a couple weeks ago for
You still
something
have
or
a
other.
MySpace channel?
Yep. Old MySpace channel. It's Mark's
Oh,
an
is that
artist. Don't you
32
know?
video with like Greg hitting his head with ice?
Yes, and
That's-
it's so funny because at the time that video, we thought it was so amazing, and now with the advent of the internet, we realize how immature and stupid we look compared to some of the stupidity we could have been doing. I mean, we hadn't grown in our
Right.
stupidity phase yet.
Right. I remember what was so special about it is we recorded it on your special camera that had floppy disk
It
technology.
did have floppy disk technology.
So we record like 5 seconds. Gee, next floppy.
No, it recorded about a minute. It was about a minute on those floppies. It was good.
The quality was a little lacking, but
A little bit. At the time, it was amazing. Like, you didn't have technology that did that at the time. I mean, it sounds like we're talking ancient, but this was only like early 2000s. I mean, it's really not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but technology-wise, it's a long ways off.
With floppy disks?
Yeah, it was one of the first because they had cameras. I don't even think they had like micro SD cards and stuff back then. Like they didn't exist yet. It was you either bought one that had floppy disks or they had built-in hard drives, but the hard drives were like, 5 meg hard drives or something like that. They were really small at the time, and you had to connect them to your computer and download everything. So the one with the floppy disk was actually cool because it was a removable media that on the go you could just put in new media. After that is when they shortly came out with the ones that recorded on CD,
Okay.
like on the fly. But
Yeah, I guess I was between video cameras at that point. Because for some reason, I don't even remember why I bought my first one. Just, I guess, to record us being idiots, but
VHS.
like high 8 camera.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, you put those into VHS
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, they were like the super small tapes or whatever. And then I didn't buy a camera again until our wedding, and that was just because I could either pay a videographer to videotape the wedding for $600, or I could just buy a video camera for $600 and have a friend do it.
I just can't believe the technology of my camera. Like my camera on my phone is like one of the best quality cameras I've ever owned in my life. And that includes my GoPro. Granted, it doesn't do as much stuff as my GoPro does. However, the quality of just a straight up shot on that thing is amazing.
And like back in the day, or not back in the day, a couple of years ago, it was all about like megapixels. Like this has 12 megapixels, this has 16, this has 21. But I think what it's sort of been showing now is that it's like the processors. Like if you have multiple fast processors, then
it's about megapixels as well, but I think the standard is like 16 megapixels at this point, whereas when that became a big thing, I think it was like the 1.2 megapixel was like the most amazing thing that you could have. And
right. But like my point and click is like I think 12 megapixels, and this the smartphone is like, I don't know what this is. This is about 12 as well. And my smartphone's pictures are so much better than my point and shoot, which is weird, I think, because it's like this is not a dedicated camera, but it takes much nicer pictures. I think because the processor's faster and whatever. No?
Yeah. Well, and you always have your phone with you as well.
Yeah.
So,
which is
whereas like it's a pain in the butt to keep, because we have a.
If you want to know, Mike, Mark has 2 phones with him at all times.
I really did listen to the last podcast that you guys did, so I did know that.
Yeah, one listener.
But
Yay, Mark or Mike, our best listener.
nice. So, but we do actually have like a separate point and click camera, like Mark was saying, that we spent some money on. Well, it's been a while ago now, so. Frankly, I was telling these guys earlier, like my wife and I's 7-year anniversary is on Sunday.
Ooh,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. But one of our anniversary presents to each other is we're both getting phone upgrades because we're done with our contract, like our 2-year contract. So we're getting phone upgrades. And that point and click that I paid, I don't even remember how many hundreds of dollars for, is probably going to be made obsolete by whatever phone I get, which is probably going to be an iPhone 6. It's probably going to take much better pictures than that camera.
Do you have an iPhone right now?
Yes.
I'm so tempted to be a big dick right now and send you a text message.
Oh,
You've heard the news, right, Mike?
Yeah.
What? No,
wait, you haven't. Hold on.
I don't think I have.
I'm gonna see if this. I have no idea if this works or not. Mike, be prepared.
Oh yeah, the virus or whatever, or the shut off.
Right? Have you gotten it from anybody?
No, but I read about it on Twitter or something.
I'm so curious if it.
I'm not gonna mess with it.
So for our listeners that may or may not know, there's a text, some kind of text, and the text is like when it goes through the iPhone program, it causes it to automatically shut down your phone, right? Is that what you're doing, Jeff?
It all depends on where you're at. Like that's the weird thing that I was reading about it, is it all depends on where you're at in your operating system. Like if you're looking at the messages, apparently it doesn't do anything. If you're in the lock screen, it forces it to stop the messenger app so you won't receive any more messages. If you're somewhere else, it like all this weird things, it doesn't make as much sense to me, but it apparently causes some like the way the coding switches over from this other language to its Unicode translation. It tries to send some stuff. It ends up calling a memory that doesn't exist, a memory location that doesn't exist, and it makes the program crash. Essentially is what I get out of it. How it became found, and then how it became so universal for every iPhone from so many different applications baffles
Right.
me. Like,
Do you think someone just programmed that in and then just sort of had it as a joke
no,
for?
I definitely don't think that. I think it's a complete coincidence, but
Well, and if they haven't wrote a patch for it already, I'm
no,
sure
they
they.
said they're not going to write a patch for it until the next upgrade or the next update, I heard.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I think they're going to have to not do that from how much traction it's carrying. Do you have your
Right,
phone with you? Because I'm
exactly.
curious what just happened.
I haven't got your text message yet.
Damn it. I wonder if they blocked it. I
Unless
wonder
it
if they
just shut down my phone. No, it didn't.
No, I wonder if they blocked it because I was actually
Yeah.
trying to send this to myself, and it wouldn't. It would. Well, I have an Android. It doesn't matter. It's not
Oh,
affected by
yeah,
that. I was trying to send it to myself through the website communication where you can like email yourself text messages, and it wouldn't go through. And I thought they maybe stopped the fact that you can email text messages. And then I emailed
Yeah.
a different text message and it worked. So I'm wondering if they just like banned completely somehow that
It would
string.
it'd be easy for Apple to do that, right? Because I mean, they have things that I'm sure like catches certain keywords, because all the text messages goes through their network, and then
Well,
they
it
can
wouldn't go through the Apple network per se. It would go through all the carriers' networks. You'd have to
carry
connect with
networks.
every carrier and then have them ban that. But I guess it's if you're saying this is a big exploit, one of the
Right.
biggest phones you have on your network, ban this string from going through. They easily could have done that, I would
Right.
think.
Hmm.
And if you haven't received my text message, because let me send you another text message of just like
Yeah, try it again.
saying hello.
Uh, so I was gonna say if you tried to
It's
send it to yourself and didn't work, I could see you'd be like, keep trying to send this to me, but my phone keeps
my
shutting
phone
off.
keeps resetting. I can never get this thing. It's crazy. So yeah, but that one, the hello came through.
Whoa.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I can't. So they must have banned in some way. I'm gonna take out like one of the characters of it because I'm really curious. Unless it just doesn't understand the like Unicode or something like that. I don't know. There, I'm gonna delete a couple characters of this and try to send it to you again. I'm just curious on the
Right.
fly what would happen. But what do you think about people finding exploits and stuff like that?
I feel like every PC virus that has ever come along, like if something gets popular, people are going to start writing viruses for it. And, I don't worry too much about it, really.
I see, and what I wonder is which end do they start working on? Because I would think that they probably look at the hardware, look at where it would buffer overrun, and then look at the software. How do you cause that buffer overrun instead of looking at the software to cause the hardware problem? Because
See,
I would think that.
See, I don't even know, as because if you're calling a memory location that doesn't exist, how would you find that out from the software side? You'd first start calling stuff that doesn't exist to find out what actually crashes the phone, and then find a way to do that subroutine to call it. I don't know. In my opinion, it's like a random coincidence that somebody came across. Because who would think that if I randomly call this memory location, it's going to cause this havoc? Now I'm going to try to.
Well,
know.
they must have done something because I haven't received the second text either.
Really?
So they must look for the beginning of or some area of that code, and then have it just shut
It
off.
could be
I
because
got
it
the
uses
hello.
like Russian symbols or something like that. So
Right.
maybe that's
It looked like Arabic or something.
Yeah.
Damn you, Putin!
But yeah, I got your hello like almost immediately, but this
Yeah.
one is neither one of the sandwiching texts are coming through.
Wonder if you figure out what part of the code that they look for. If you could put other code around it so they can't really detect it.
I don't-
With like YouTube, what they do for video is they look for certain patterns in the video, but a lot of times you can get around it by having like a background and then the video smaller inside the YouTube
Mhm.
video.
I've
And they
watched
get
a
around
few episodes of Survivor that I was behind on that way. I have done so. But the concept of hacking in general, not that I want to be a hacker because I want to do harm, but the concept of it is so intriguing to me on like how this stuff is accomplished. It really just like, I want to know more. I always I see that stuff and I'm like, I want to know more. I want to know more. Not because I want to do bad things, but I want to know if I wanted to do bad things, how could I? Like,
well, it's sort of like Sudoku. Like, you do it just for the little bit of challenge. Like, once you figure out how the game works, then to being able to play the game.
And it's just sort of natural curiosity. Like, I'm curious about a lot of things. Like, okay, so kind of timely is the guy the Dread Pirate Roberts, the guy who headed the Silk Road, was just sentenced to life in prison like today.
I was thinking Princess Bride.
I was very curious about, the Silk Road and how that whole situation works. I read several articles on that because I was super curious.
Well, he didn't start it, though.
What's that?
He didn't even start it. He bought it from the guy who started it.
Right, but he turned it into this huge thing that he made a lot of money off it and this thing. So
it was like a black market way, for those who don't know, to didn't it start out as drugs? But it moved into...
it eventually evolved into just anything illegal you wanted to do, you could do it on the Silk Road.
Yeah.
But not that I'm ever going to go on the Silk Road, but I was fascinated by that story, like how that all works. That there's this hidden internet, that only certain people can get on. And
well, it's not that hard. It's just knowing how to do it and where to go. Like,
well, this guy operated it for many, many years.
But Mark, what you're saying is just like any underground operation. It's not that hard. You just need to know what it is and where to go.
Right.
Well, yes, you're absolutely correct.
Right. Like if you want to gamble on video poker, you just go to Terry's Lounge.
Well, you used
not
to.
Everybody knows Lounge. That.
Until it burned to the ground due to...
Well, what I heard it originally started
what's the
by
opposite of arson? I want to put that in quotes. Not arson.
Well, okay, but you know about Bitcoins, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And how it's so popular and not everyone, but a lot of people are using it. That's all through the Silk Road. Like, it's harder to get like Bitcoins outside the Silk Road because it's so...
I think it's harder to get Bitcoins because they're all mined up at this point. Because I still don't get that concept of Bitcoin
it hasn't
mining.
reached its maximum yet.
I don't. How do you make a fake currency that you have to mine for with CPU power? The concept doesn't make any sense.
It actually made sense to me. I've studied a lot of this.
I had a Bitcoin mining machine for a while because it's legal. It's not an illegal thing to do, and it's the way Bitcoin was designed. But I still didn't understand what was happening. It was just my computer did stuff, and Bitcoins came my way, or fractions of Bitcoins came my way.
Well, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But it's basically like any other currency. When someone values something, as if you place a monetary value on anything. I could sell you a scrap of paper with my signature on it, and whatever you're willing to pay for it is valuable. You know what I mean? Like if you, for some reason, think my signature is worth $100, then it's worth $100. So same with Bitcoins. If someone, a network of people decide that these things are valuable, then they are.
Yeah, it was actually Bitcoin started off at the value of 20 cents per Bitcoin, and the people who are the Olympic swimmers that helped create Facebook? The Winklevoss?
Oh, the Voss, something Voss.
Yeah, they were huge players in the Bitcoin market.
Yeah, they were. I don't know if they still are, but they were.
Oh, Bitcoin. One of these days, we'll delve into you deep.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. Got serious stuff to do.
Always.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Thanks for listening, everybody.
What do we know?
Podcast at every social media outlet you can think of. All right, bye-bye.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife, Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone, I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart, but sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?